Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fat Man Little Trail, the podcast where everyone is invited on the trail. I am your trail guide for the day, Greg, the founder of fatmanlittletrail.com. Make sure you guys check out fatmanlittletrail.com, the website. It's where I put so much information, including some getting started guides, some trail reviews, some food reviews, and all sorts of product reviews as well. So make sure you check that out. I want to thank everybody for the amazing support on the podcast. We're getting a lot of people listening and paying attention, and I really enjoy that. Bringing you these wonderful stories of people I've met on the trail or that I hope to meet one day on the trail. And as always, if you guys want to help out and you want to help support the podcast, there is a link in my bio where you can make a little donation to help me out. Even 99 cents a month goes a long way towards bringing you guys the content that you love. I want to get right into my chewing the fat segment today. Nelson Holland is a guy that I've found on TikTok, and he runs the site or the TikTok handle Fatblackandgettinit. And it's just so fun to watch him and the energy that he brings and all that stuff. And I actually ran into Nelson at a convention we were at. We met there and asked him to be on the podcast, and he has been nice enough to join me. So Nelson, thank you so much. From one hefty hiker to another, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
I really appreciate it. So let's tell everybody who might not have seen your TikTok yet. I don't know if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen it. You've got like 80,000 followers now, which is pretty amazing. But anybody who hasn't seen it yet, give us a little bit of background about yourself. Where do you live at, and what are you doing with the TikTok?
So I live in Colorado, Aurora, Colorado, to be more specific, not too far from Denver. And basically, I just try to inspire people to get outside. Colorado and nature specifically has transformed my life in a bunch of ways. And I just want to share my experiences with everybody and show off some of the beautiful land that we have here as well.
It is absolutely beautiful out here. Were you always a bigger guy? Have you, like, growing up, were you a bigger guy?
Yeah, just about all my life. We don't come out the womb obese, I guess you could say, but I think about from maybe 7 or 8 years old until now, I've been pretty overweight. Played football my middle school, high school, and a college year, and I was 300 pounds for most of that whole stint. So
Wow.
I've always been pretty hefty.
I did it the opposite. I was kind of skinny growing up, and then I wrestled. So I was like cutting weight, and it was like lose 20 pounds a week and then, binge eat at the end of it. And then when I stopped working out that hard, I kept the binge eating going, and I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So like later in life, I became bigger, and that's when I realized I had some issues. What was it that drew you to hiking to tackle that weight issue that you had?
Really, for me, it was just, I guess, novel experiences. I'm from New York, so when I first came to Colorado, I wanted to just check out my new home, and I'd never seen nature like this before. So once I saw, beautiful mountain peaks, and you can drive to those peaks and get closer. Once I saw the type of vistas that you can see from an area like Boulder, I was kind of hooked. The weight loss came later for me, but I realized I have bad knees and ankles, as a lot of us hefty hikers too. So it's actually easier for me to hike a lot of the time on, dirt or grass than it is for me to like get on a treadmill or go on a track or be on concrete. So yeah, it became just like a great way to lose weight for me. And then, the mental health benefits, it got to the point where sometimes I feel like I'm addicted, but it's just about the healthiest addiction I can think of.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing that I noticed. I didn't know if you noticed, and you touched on it right there, is I started hiking because I was like, oh, I'm going to lose weight, and this is going to be a great way to do it. And then what I realized was that the mental health benefits kind of overshadowed the physical benefits of mental health, or of hiking. Did you find that too with the mental health benefits?
Yeah, 150%. I really didn't come out there thinking that was going to be, my happy place. I literally just wanted to see some cool stuff I hadn't seen before, but it's become like the mountains now are like, my church. It's where I like to reflect on things. And yeah, I when I feel stressful, I run to that place. And yeah, I don't think I could live without those mental health benefits at this point.
I didn't realize how important it was to me until the last. I had surgery a couple of weeks ago and haven't been able to hike, and I've been sitting on my couch just like I did for many years before this, and I didn't realize how hard it is not to be out in nature until I've spent the last 2 years out in nature. So that is kind of amazing to me. Do you remember what your first hike was when you came to Colorado?
Ah, man, I've been thinking about this. So my actual first hike, I think I just kind of took a quarter-mile walk to like some waterfall that wasn't really a waterfall with a couple local friends that I had made here. But I never really thought of that as a hike. And I did like one easy one in Table Mesa, and I liked the bat round of the Flatirons, and I thought that was really cool. But the first one that I really remember was Green Mountain in Boulder from the west side. I just did that randomly on a lunch break, was not prepared for it at all. Like all the wrong equipment, wrong sneakers, wrong everything. No water, no snacks, wrong everything. But the beauty of that just like kept me going. And, you know, the Boulderites kept telling me I could make it, even though I was ill prepared. They told me that I could make it, which I finally did. And, you know, it took me a while. But after I saw those mountain vistas, like I talked about from there, the Indian Peaks Wilderness just like stuns you. I was hooked after that. And I knew I had to see more things like that. I've talked to people that have lived here for 30 years and they didn't know that they could like actually hike a mountain in that way. So coming from New York, like that was, I still can't even describe it. It was just surreal.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's fun when people are from Colorado and they're natives of Colorado, because I'm not a native either, but when people are natives, they're like, oh yeah, the mountains are there. We can go whenever we want. It's kind of like if you grow up in Miami and you're like, no, I never go to the beach because it's always right there,
Right.
and then it takes us guys who just moved out here and we're like, holy cow, look at all this stuff you've got, to actually get out and do it. I do have a question. Have you ever gone back and done Green Mountain a second time to kind of compare where you were from that first time to where you are now?
I have. So I have problems with weight fluctuation. I've done good in the past, and I think I'm doing better at being active. So definitely, I noticed like depending on my weight, I'll be faster or slower. But definitely from the first time I got on the mountain, it's just a whole different experience. I mean, I was in like, flat top Nikes, like shoes that aren't even athletic. I did that hiking the first time. I'll at least have a good pair of hiking boots this time, so that'll cut down on the time and the wear and tear on those ankles just a little bit.
Well, and I always found like you can hike in tennis shoes just fine, but staying upright, like when you're in tennis shoes or Nikes, it just like there's no grip. And I was just constantly, when I started out, just constantly slipping up and down the dirt, and it gets a little rough. But so you are very open about your weight. You just talked about how your weight kind of fluctuates. I'm a yo-yo guy myself. I'll lose 20, gain 20, lose 20, gain 20 type of thing. How much? So when you started this journey, what was your weight at?
About 370, and it may have even be a little more than that, but that was about the last time I weighed myself.
And what is the more recent count for you?
These days it's looking like 335. Last year I did really good. I got as low as 270, but yeah,
Oh, wow.
kind of a stressful year, and it just got off track. Like I said, I think a lot of us, we have that bad relationship with food, and I can kind of celebrate with food and also use it to like deal with stress. And I've been piling on too much. When that sun gets a little, seasonal affective disorder, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that gets to me a little bit, and I'm just inside eating a little more, Uber Eats a little more. But yeah, I'm planning on getting back on it. I have been struggling, but I'm still being active, and hopefully me, you, and everybody else will be at another 20 pounds down by backpacking season.
I like it. What is do you have a goal weight, or is it just to be healthy?
I did have a goal weight, and then I realized that it wasn't about that. So, but it's about a little more than being healthy for me. Originally, I wanted to just be around 250. I thought that was kind of a good weight for me, but now it's really about like mountaineering. After seeing 14 Peaks on Netflix, that just like changed my goals in life. I would love to be able to do things like that, but I can't do it at my current weight. So I
Mm-hmm.
really just want to lose enough weight to get comfortable rock climbing and hiking, climbing, and traversing mountains, and yeah, I would like to do a lot of that stuff. And I think for me, 250 may still be a goal weight, but yeah, it's more about endurance and stamina and things like that.
Have you done a 14er?
I have done one. I finally did my first one last year, and it just took about everything I had. Yeah, definitely like wasn't walking right the next day. Recovered pretty well. I do have that trait. But yeah, it's funny because my original thought after doing a 14er was like, these are a little overrated. 13ers are just as nice. I've heard that before, but seeing them up close, I was like, yeah, there's less people, and I almost like 13ers more. I know that's not a popular opinion, but the reason why I think that is because the 14er is like right there in the background, right? When you're on a 14er, you are at the top of the background. So you're like looking down and the view is awesome. But when you're on a 13er, there's a 14er right there in the background. And then the rest is very similar to the 14er. So I think aesthetically, you just have like another super beautiful mountain right there. Anyway, after seeing 14 peaks, I completely shot that goal. And I'm like, no, I want to like be able to do Mount Everest and things like that one day. Definitely Mount Kilimanjaro. So 14ers will help me get there. And now I would just like to do all of them.
Which one did you do?
I did Beardstad. I went with an easy one. Tell me if you think there's another easy one. Everybody tells me that I should try Quandary as well. But I did Beardstad, and it took me a while.
Sherman is my goal. So I'm with you. I don't believe in the 14er hype. I love 13ers because 13ers, they're not as crowded. And the last 1,000 feet is usually you're just walking through scree. I mean, the weather's bad. Like it's rock, it's ugly, it's gray. It's just like there's no fun in it, to me at least. But like 13ers, like I did Mount Flora last year, and like you're still literally like there's green around you. Like there's still grass, and you're like, how am I at 13,000 feet when there's grass right here? But Mount Sherman has been a goal to be. I did Bierstadt before I started this whole journey, like 8 years ago, so I don't really count it. But my goal is to do a 14er probably this summer coming up, hopefully. And I think Sherman is going to be the one. It's probably the easiest one that they have. It's a little bit further out. It's like in the Leadville area. But yeah, I mean, that'll be my goal. Maybe we'll do that one together.
Yeah, no, as you were saying that, I was like, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. I really wanted to avoid 14ers, a couple months ago, but like I said, since 14 peaks, I'm like, yeah, I should just go for it. So yeah, I'm up for it. Let's do it.
All right, we'll plan something out. What is have you gotten to the point where you started up a mountain, let's say it was a 14 or a 13 or just one of your hikes, and you just couldn't go any further? What motivated you to keep going, or did you just say, you know what, not today?
So two things. Well, there are times where I've said not today. Like I had said earlier, for me, it's usually about the view. So if I have like a breathtaking view and I still haven't gotten to the top of the mountain and I'm starting to get tired or it's starting to get late, then I'm not opposed to going back down. But since being on social media, people always say that I inspire them, but they literally inspire me just as much to keep going and show them that view and show them the perseverance and that they can do it. So these days I tend to push myself that extra mile or two if I can. And yeah, that along with the view and just kind of like, conquering my goals and stuff, that'll push me through. I would say, like, advice to anybody that's kind of getting into this, a lot of it for me too is like, because I'm an athlete, I know my body, and the way that you could replicate that if you haven't been an athlete before is just by knowing kind of what you can and can't handle. So even if I'm having an off day, but I know I can do 7 miles and 1,500-foot elevation gain, then I'll sometimes just finish that because I know that I can take that. So I do finish a lot these days, but there's nothing wrong with turning around. And like I said, when I get to a point where I see something beautiful enough for me, if I need to turn back, I'll turn back. I do that. I did it. Actually, I made a TikTok about it a couple months ago. It was like 50-mile-per-hour winds. I should have bought an extra jacket. I didn't bring a hat or gloves, and yeah, I got to like the part of the mountain where you get out of tree line. Still had probably a half mile or a quarter or 3/4 of a mile to go, and I just decided like, nah, not today. I'll come back.
People have asked me that too. Like, how do you keep motivated to keep going? And I'm like, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, like, you have to know when the mountain beats you. And it's okay to know that what your limits are and to turn around and know that that mountain's not moving and you can go back and get that mountain another day. And I think I've quit on like 4 mountains, and they're pretty much all weather related, where like you start going and then the weather comes in. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to force this. And I went back and I did, I think all of them except one. I need to finish Mount Audubon in Brainerd Lake area. But like the rest of them, I've gone back and finished. And it's just one of those things that I think we get so in our minds, we get so focused on, I've got to finish this. I've got to beat this. I've got to be the best, you know, like that. You realize like you get yourself in some bad situations at times. So the other thing I love that you just said was you have to have the view. And I think I'm the exact same way. Like when I started hiking, I think one of the reasons, like if you put me on a treadmill or you tell me to go run around the city, like I'm going to take 4 steps and just be like, I'm done, because I get bored. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to go do this crazy hard hike because, you know, it's hard. And then I can say that I accomplished it. And if that motivates them, that's great. But for me, and I think for you as well, if I'm not having great views, or if I'm not, you know, doing something I'm enjoying, I'm going to get bored and I'm not going to do it. And I think that helped motivate me. Do you find the same thing where like the views are what motivates you more than like getting healthy? Like I'd rather go see something beautiful than, you know, just walk for 10 miles, you know?
Yeah, as you were saying it, you know, you could see me visibly smiling and laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree. Yeah, it's funny. For years, I was the slowest person on my football team. I mean, my entire career, I could never finish a mile in like, you know, 10 minutes. It always took me closer to 20. And now hiking, like I can do that. I can do a mile in 20 minutes hiking up a mountain. You know, it definitely was boredom. I didn't realize that until I saw the nature. And yeah, people don't realize, if you don't do this sport too, it is about the view for me. But while you're walking to that view, I mean, you may see woodpeckers or robins or eagles or a moose or an elk. So that whole journey is so exciting to me that, yeah, that's what keeps me going most of the time. And those times that we were talking about earlier, when we get up, it's usually I'm like, I wonder what it's like up there. It's been so great here. It's got to be great up there too. So I'll just, you know, mosey on up.
Well, and I love that too, because I think a lot of people are so, especially out here in Colorado, people are in crazy good shape. And one of the reasons I didn't go out to the trails for years was because I was embarrassed, like that all these skinny people were going to make fun of me on the trail. But there's so many people that are just focused on getting to the end and then turning around and coming back, that I think they miss a lot that is on the journey. Like you said, like there's a lot of times where I'll be walking and I'll stop and be like, holy cow, do you guys see that? And people are just so focused on just moving forward. And I think that's one thing for a beginning hiker to remember is there's views throughout the entire hike. And whether, like you said, it could be a woodpecker, it could be a deer, it could be, you know, an aspen tree or something like that, you know, there's beauty throughout the entire hike. And I think that it's important for people, especially starting out, to realize that, to embrace every step of the hike and not just how far you made it, but think about all the beauty that you saw along the way. And then that way, if you make it 5 miles, you make it 10 miles, you make it 15 miles, either way, you're enjoying that journey the entire time. So
couldn't agree more. Yeah, I often think, you know, there's nothing wrong with trail running, obviously, but yeah, there's like a lot of times I'll spend 3 hours on a mountain that somebody spends 1 hour on. And like, you know, an animal will come out there that I know that they didn't see. And I often think like, yeah, it's crazy that we were in the same path today, but had 2 completely different experiences. And for me, yeah, I do like pushing myself and attaining those physical goals. I think as an athlete, I'm kind of competitive, and it's nice to say that I did the Manitou Incline, right? But even still, it was about the view and the journey for me. And yeah, to me, it's more about the hours you spend in nature more than anything else.
And that's actually where I found you on TikTok. Was I watched you do the Manitou Incline, or your post about the Manitou Incline. And that's one of those hikes that I can't get behind. I don't like, it's just, you're walking up a staircase for, you know, however many 4,000 feet or whatever it is. Like, what was it to you though, to accomplish that? And are there views? Is it worth it for me to go down there and try to do the incline?
First of all, you have to do it because you will love it. Like, okay. There's a mountain, it's in that town of Manitou Springs is a mountain community. The people there are friendly, very supportive. You get people from around the world coming. and it's like you have like this spiritual experience while you're on that incline. You have to try it. Another reason to do it is if you want to do something like Pikes Peak, that's the quickest way to get there, even though it is a hell of an incline. But yeah, the views are amazing of Colorado Springs and Garden of the Gods and Red Rocks Park. You can see that all as you go up the incline. Obviously, once you get to the top of the incline, you have an awesome view of Pikes Peak. But what I would really tell you, and not a lot of people do this, but the sunrise there was one of the most beautiful sunrises I've ever seen. I do sunrise hikes a lot, and I like to get some elevation and look down on it.
Mm-hmm.
So going 3,000 feet up in a mile, I mean, you don't get better elevation gain than that real quick. So basically, you know, if you hit the incline a half an hour before the sunrise, even if you don't get to the top, no matter where you are, the sunrise is going to be amazing. You're going to get all the colors in the sky. And then if you still have some energy after you finish, you still have your whole day to do something with. So yeah, my motivation behind it though was literally once again just wanting to check out Colorado, and I had saw that view that I was telling you about. I've seen the Manitou Incline views in a bunch of different ways, and just wanted to be part of the fun. And yeah, thankfully I finished it because I had no idea when I started.
Yeah, it was one of those where you actually made it look good on your TikTok. Like the only time I've ever wanted to do it was when I saw you do it on TikTok, and I was like, holy cow, like you look at the views, like, and I think you did it early in the morning, and you had some of that sunrise pictures on your TikTok. Everybody check out his TikTok. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. But that was like the first time that I looked at it, and I was like, holy cow, this looks amazing. The rest of the time I'm like, oh, man, I can walk up the stairs in my apartment building and get the same idea. But I want to talk about something we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier about having the right gear to hike. Have you found that as a bigger guy, it's harder to find gear when you're, or like gear that fits properly and things like that for hiking?
Absolutely. I mean, one, as a bigger guy, I don't know if it's just me or if it's all us bigger guys, but like I'm never the right size anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I go into a regular store, I'm always in between their sizes, and like I can't find anything that fits me right. So finding athletic clothing that you feel comfortable in is already like a hurdle. And then yeah, when it comes to certain things like snowshoes and all that, finding things that can support people that are like on the heavier side of things or worse or is hard to do. But yeah, with help, I think there are resources out there these days. There's been like the plus size hiker movement recently. So I think like it is getting easier to find things that you would like to use.
I get the double whammy because I'm short and fat, which is, they don't have, they have big and tall stores. They don't have like, hey, short and round guy, they don't have that store. But I found that, I ran into the same thing where I couldn't get a backpack that I could get the waist straps or the hip straps to belt buckle up, and I couldn't find the right clothing. And my snowshoes, I have got like 36-inch snowshoes, which are basically as tall as I am. So walking on them is ridiculous. But that's what they say by weight you need to have as you're going up. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that because there is stuff that you can find out there. It's just something that I had a question with you personally.
And it sucks that we do have to do so much research. Like I'm constantly calling places before I go in. Even a store like REI, I'm not confident that they have what I need there. I need to call, and sometimes they don't. I'm ordering things from places. I'm reading a bunch of reviews. Like I can't just go into a store and get things. But I do think when I do the research, I can usually find something that's something that I could use. I'm not short, people wouldn't say, but I'm not actually as tall as a lot of people think. I'm about 6 foot, 6'1". So when I go into like DXL or the big and tall stores, I'm actually on the lower line of like what they sell. So I have a lot of the similar problems. Like I can't go into a Walmart. DXL has barely anything for me. But that being said, not trying to hype up a brand specifically, but I've just heard like a lot of people tell me that Columbia is really good for plus size clothing and outdoor gear and all that. And yeah, I found like, kind of thrift store shops or Amazon has had some stuff for me, and REI has been like a godsend. But like I said, I usually have to like talk to somebody before I can buy anything there.
Plus, read all of the product reviews on fatmanlittletrail.com.
Plus that.
I do love cool clothing. Cool, I've found fits me very well, and it's very, very well made clothing. If we're going to shout out brands right now, I figured I'd get mine in there too. Um, are you have a goal of inspiring people and inspiring heavier hikers? Is that kind of the main goal of why you're doing all your social media?
It has become one of the main goals, but literally it's all about the views for me. I just being from New York, I had like all of my family and friends had never seen anything like this before. So they were encouraged to have me posting that stuff. And then some people said that I should post more. So I got on Instagram, had a friend that I should get on TikTok. At that point, I was still like a huge introvert and didn't have any selfies of myself. I still am introverted, but you know, what am I going to do with that these days?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think I did a dance trend at Mount Princeton. Kind of got a feel for like how I could sell these views to people in a big way, or you know, not sell them, but just have them watch.
Right.
And yeah, the rest is kind of history. But it wasn't necessarily. It didn't start out like that. But once I saw the reception that I had, and then literally I was inspiring people to get on trail that like were scared to otherwise. I mean, through social media, but also I'll do group hikes with people and like literally show them places that I know for a fact that they're able to do. Yeah, after that, like, yeah, that's definitely something that I'm passionate about. You can add, you know, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. I'd love for them to recapture the land that they have been historically unable to recreate in. And yeah, that has definitely become my mission statement now, is to make these views that I love accessible for everybody.
Well, yeah, because I mean, hiking is predominantly white people that are out there hiking that I've seen, you know, when I go out. So it's great to see somebody who is trying to inspire, you know, more and more people to get more and more diverse people to get out onto the trails. And like you said, you know, especially like Native American people, it was their land first, and you know, you want to get them out to enjoy it as well. But one thing the reason I wanted to ask that question is because when I met you, I thought you were actually really shy. Like when I met you in that convention in person, you were like really shy and soft spoken. I was like, this isn't the guy from Instagram. And I was just wondering, you know, because you said you were an introvert, and I was like, okay, well, that makes sense now why he's doing it. How amazing does that feel? I've had people email me and reach out to me and say, hey, like I'm literally hiking because I watched you on Instagram. And is there a better feeling in the world than to have somebody do that?
No, like I said, the inspiration inspires me. The motivation motivates me. The fact that I'm motivating people, and yeah, it just, yeah, there isn't a better feeling in the world. I had no idea that this was something I'd want to be doing, but as soon as I felt that feeling of people being like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna go for a walk outdoors now," I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that I could actually influence people," you know, and yeah, I just wanted to show people some, I guess that was always a goal, like to have people see some of the views that I saw. But yeah, the reception is just like, yeah, I'm speechless. I don't have words for sometimes when I read comments. I mean, I get all types of spectrum of comments, like people will be in the hospital and they couldn't get out for a few days, and like I am their outdoors. Like, I mean, but yes, also the people that get on trail because, I mean, just it means the world to me.
Does your entire family from New York come to visit you and just want to go outside the whole time?
You know, I haven't gotten as many people out here as I wanted to, and they're all, as is the Black community, kind of, you know, in mass. They're kind of like afraid of what's out here, as I was when I first came out here. But yeah, they all love it when they do come. You know, I give them my personal tour, and we always hit the national park, and we're always going to hit Boulder, and I'm always going to get them up close to some animals. And yeah, they leave and they're just like, I get it. This is amazing. This was the best trip I ever had. It's, yeah, everybody loves it.
As the hiking community embraced you, I mean, like you said, the Black community is a little scared to get outdoors. Like, have you seen that hikers are generally a very accommodating people,
Um,
or have you
I'd say
seen the other way?
I'd say it's kind of like life is. So there's definitely been like amazing people that have supported me. Taisha Adams is the head coordinator for Outdoor Afro in Colorado, and she's like a supportive friend. Queen Work, I definitely have to bring up like every time I talk about this, because she's been more than a godsend and like so supportive and literally the most inclusive person I know. Um, and then there's definitely like a bunch of other people and awesome accounts that have been good. When I'm actually on trail, it's 50-50. It's funny because I know like people don't recognize me. I've had more people recognize me just being downtown Denver than ever on a trail. Like nobody notices me on trail. And I realized the other day that a lot of like when I'm in a more affluent area, I definitely get those looks that we as people of colors don't feel great about. When I definitely get somebody that's like older, I don't feel good about passing them on trail, and I get no smile or friendly wave or anything like that. That's never deterred me. But if we're talking about how inclusive the community is, now that I'm on social media, I find that the community can be very inclusive. But before I was on social media, I definitely felt like I was having my own experience out there, and there was nobody else out there that was like me.
And it's good to show that to people and hopefully inspire more people like you to get out onto the trails, right?
Yeah, that is definitely the goal now. Yeah, I love getting fat people out there that just didn't even think that they can do it. Like you can literally climb the Manitou incline or a 14er if you want to. I did those things at over 300 pounds. You can do it too. And I didn't have hiking poles. I'll have hiking poles next time I do that. But yeah, and then definitely, like I said, people of color, like this stuff is beautiful. Half of it is free, like more than half of it is free.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome experiences and skill building for the whole family. And I would love to have those people out on trail with me too.
Well, that's great. I'm sure after watching you and seeing you on TikTok and Instagram, they're definitely going to be reaching out and hopefully getting more and more people out on the trail because like you said, it's just such a beautiful way to spend a day, and it's good for both the mental and physical aspects of your life. So, stay away from moose, though. That is my one advice. Have you seen a moose yet?
Oh man, you guess you must be a little new to the page because moose is like my thing. I have one video that got like 180,000 views where I was like literally I was walking down like a riverbed in a national park and like turned my head and here's this moose, and it kind of like we're standing face to face to each other, like way closer than I would like to be, probably like 20 feet away, but across a stream. But it was a really serene, natural moment because I swear we understood each other in that moment. I like
Mm-hmm.
literally put my hands up like this, like I'm not coming here to do anything, bro. And he like just like looked at me for a little while, waited for me to move like literally 5 or 10 feet to the side, and then cross the river. Like so, we both kind of just gave each other like the bare minimal enough of space. But yeah, actually, moose is like one of the things. Elk is what originally kind of like I'm really passionate about wildlife too. That's part of the
Mm-hmm.
views that I really like seeing. And elk is kind of the original animal that got me like, oh man, I gotta like explore Colorado more. The first time I saw a moose, I went searching for moose for about 8 months before I found one. I've seen like over 50 now. That's
Oh
like
wow.
essentially my favorite animal. I've been up close a few times. Stay 30 yards away, people out there. But
Yes.
yeah, I get those 30 yards every time. I want to get as close as I can.
I wanted to see a moose up until I saw a moose, and then I was like, nope. Those are huge animals, and I do love seeing them, but like I like seeing them from. I'm more of a 100-yard guy. Like I like to give them their space. I have seen you with a bunch of was it longhorn sheep and mountain goats. I've seen you a bunch of those on your page, but
Yeah, Bighorn Sheep. There's an awesome
mhm.
place not too far away from where either one of us live, Waterton Canyon, where
Yep,
you can get
love it.
right on the road with them. So yeah, I do that every rut, and sometimes it's a great beginner's hike too for us fat
Mhm.
hikers out there. There's no elevation gain. You can just kind of get your miles in. So I do that one a lot to kind of just test my endurance, like I was speaking about earlier. But yeah, I can't think of a better place to test my endurance than with Bighorn Sheep.
A fun story about Waterton Canyon. The first time I did it, I walked all the way to the dam, which is probably about 6 miles out, maybe something like that,
I
five or
think it
six
says
miles.
6.4 one way.
Is it 6.4? Okay. So, but I got past like where everybody is. So it was just like mountain bikers and me. So I'm walking down the road by myself and I keep hearing this rustling in the bushes next to me. And as soon as I stopped, the rustling stopped. And I'd look around, I wouldn't see anything. And then I'd walk, rustling, 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 stop, quiet. Then I'd start walking and start rustling. And I am 99% sure that there was a mountain lion or cougar of some sort that was stalking me for the majority of my hike because I was just this fat guy by myself walking down by the river. So then it was the one and only time I've ever played music on the trail. I got my phone out and I pulled up my Spotify or whatever it was, Pandora, and just started blasting the most obnoxious music I could think of as loud as I possibly could for two reasons. I'm like, I'm either going to scare away this mountain lion or I'm not going to hear it coming and it's just going to be quick. And it gets better at this point.
That's a good resolution. You made me just want to get some downloaded music to my phone for that because I don't know what I would do in that situation. I'm jealous of you though. I've seen mountain lion tracks over there a couple times, but never had an experience with them like that.
I was not feeling it. It was not something I was excited about. I've seen pretty much every animal except for a mountain lion. Like I've never seen one and I don't want to. I'm cool with that. Like that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I used to call myself the Black Dundee. I just have this thing with wildlife. The first time I saw elk, like once again, it's like a speechless moment. I turned into the little kid that I was that watched National Geographic. Coming from New York, Long Island even, we have deer and raccoon and foxes out there. It's not like there's no wildlife out there, but elk walking on your property and through your town in the way that they do out here was just blew my mind. So now I kind of just want to have that experience with everything.
Yeah.
Be prepared, bring your mace, and be armed if you feel you need to do that. But yeah, I would love to have one of those mountain lion experiences. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be like afraid when that moment happens, but that's kind of how I feel like when I do hikes too. I have this weird thing where I just like want to just run into my fears. So mountain lion is on my list. I saw a bobcat for the first time at the Daniels Park a month or two ago. And yeah, I was like, even that, I saw it while I was driving before I got out the car. But to know that thing is just like in the bushes while I'm walking there, I was just like, oh, this is really cool and also really scary, but I'm gonna come back.
And they say a lot of those animals are as scared of us as we are of them, but I don't believe that.
I do think so. Like you said, you're a little shorter than me. I like to think maybe that's what makes me feel good about myself. That at my size, some of those predator animals will just kind of like avoid me because they're not sure like what I'm capable of. I feel even better when I have trekking poles. Like I feel like I have a real weapon. I'm not a ninja or anything, but it makes me feel better. But I still, when it comes to the bigger animals, moose don't scare me that much, but bison, they don't scare me. But sometimes I've been like surrounded by them quite a few times, and every time that happens, I'm just like, okay, like I'm at your mercy. But I've never had a bad experience even with that happening. I mean, they rub up against the car. I haven't even had any real scratches. Some people call me a Disney princess. I don't know, but I know I like wildlife and I want to have as many wildlife experiences as I can.
I do love seeing it. And I do love it like when you're out, especially if you hike alone. I hike alone a lot. Do you hike alone a lot, Nelson?
Yeah, like probably 75% of the time.
Same with me. So it's like, it's not that you get bored or something like that, but it's just something that just kind of changes the day. The whole, like all of a sudden you walk around, you turn around like a bend in the trail and there's like 6 deer right there. Like all of a sudden you're excited again, so I do love seeing them, but I can do with snakes. I can do without too. I'm cool. I've seen enough snakes in Colorado that I'm done with that for a while, but
I feel the same way, but yeah, once again, I just always turn into a little kid. Like I go on hikes hoping that I won't see rattlesnakes. And when I do, I'm right there with the camera, like at the, 10, 12 feet away, just right out of their striking range. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I just turn into like a photographer or I don't know, like I said, Black Dundee or just, I definitely get a little crazy. Never push the envelope, right? I'm never going to like try and grab the rattlesnake or get a foot away from it. But like, I'm always going to walk up to the line every time.
There's always videos of like tourists that go to Rocky Mountain National Park and are trying to like pet the elk. And I'm
Oh
just
my
like,
God. I
what are
can't,
you doing?
as a guy from New York that didn't know anything about that, I
Hmm.
just can't believe that like anybody would think that that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't even maybe necessarily as the most ignorant New Yorker might not think that like petting an animal would infringe upon an ecosystem, but I would definitely think that that animal wouldn't just like want that. It's not
Right.
like a domesticated house cat. Like cats don't even like being pet. Why would it like that? Yeah,
Well,
it's
plus, like cats don't have these giant, racks on their head of pointy, like, antlers that can stab you. So it just
yeah.
makes no sense to me. But
And that's with elk. Some of the craziest videos I see from Yellowstone, where people are just like literally going 10 feet away from a bison,
yeah,
like not in a car or anything. Just like why do you need that picture? I'm a social media influencer that loves wildlife. If I don't need that picture, back up a little bit, guy.
well, and that's another good topic is what is the craziest thing you've seen somebody do to take a selfie or a social media picture? Like it just drives me crazy. Some of these people I've seen.
I would say probably that. Like some of the things I see with bison are crazy because, like I said, that's
Mhm.
probably the animal that scares me most. So I'm like, you're really just gonna get that close to this unpredictable animal? I'll do that maybe, but it's definitely gonna be in a car, and I'm definitely
Yeah.
not just gonna like sit there. Like, and yeah, probably not 10 feet. Honestly, I do get surrounded by bison, but usually it's because they come to me, not because I drove into them, right? But
Right.
um, that would be one of the crazier things at the arsenal that we have here. I don't know if you've been there, but it says there are a lot of signs everywhere to not approach wildlife and don't get in your car because bison are unpredictable. And I
Yeah.
see people get out their car and it doesn't even make the shot better. And I just don't
Mhm.
understand why people like need to do that. And then wildlife, honestly, people call me about the most crazy. But when I see people like, no offense to any particular race, but when people of color see me with animals, they usually stay behind me because they think like I'm the most experienced. When people that aren't of color see me with animals, for some reason it seems like they like need to get a better shot than me. And
Mhm.
I'm like on the line, bro. Like when you go 5 feet in front of this, you are now in the danger zone. So you can do that if you want to, but like there is an invisible line that you should be aware of before you approach wildlife in this way. I'm also experienced enough to know the signals before the animal like is about to freak out. Like if
Right.
the hair stands on a moose or something like that. I know a lot of these tourist type people that do that are not educated on these things. So read those signs before you get out there.
Mine is heights. I can't deal with, like, I'm not a big fan of heights. So when I see people taking selfies on like a cliff's edge, I'm just like, what, why? I did it at Horseshoe Bend out in Arizona. I went there last year, and like there were these girls in like straight up photo shoot mode, like laying on the edge and putting their feet over the edge and taking these pictures. And they had like a photographer, and I was just like, what? Or like I'm sitting there 15 feet away from like a railing. They're right on the edge, and I'm just like, what are you people doing? Like I don't understand how you could just like lean over a 5,000 foot, or it's not 5,000 feet. It's probably, I think it's like 1,000 foot though. I mean, it's a literal straight
Right.
drop down, and it just drives me crazy that these people will do this. And we're both social media influencers, and we're yelling at influencers here. It's like
Yeah,
it's
right.
how,
It's
it's how
like
you know you're
you
old. You're like, come
can't
on, you
have to do
kids.
like that much, but hey, maybe that's why they're viral. And that would have been the second thing that I would have said is those shots are a little crazy. But I had one local friend, the same friend that I mentioned before that had been here for 30 years, and he like runs down. Well, I don't want to put his whole business out there, but since I didn't say, he like smokes cigarettes as he goes up mountains. I couldn't do that if I wanted to, which I don't.
Yeah,
And then he like runs down them like just naturally because he was born out here and they camped a lot. And I couldn't even, I'm like, well, taking one step at a time, trying to make sure I place my foot just right and everything. So yeah, the cliff stuff isn't as scary to me just because, yeah, like people that were born out here seem to just do that.
yeah,
It amazes me. I can't do it. I feel like when I'm up that high, even when we are on stable ground, I'm like, nah, I can fall. I know I
yeah.
can fall and hurt myself. But yeah, they just act like, they're bighorn sheep or something.
Yeah, I have a friend he's a native and he's kind of like my hiking mentor out here. And I've always said that I believe he's half goat. Like he was born like half billy goat and he can just climb up anything and he just doesn't even think twice about it. Meanwhile, I've got my back pressed up against the mountain, like on an 8 foot ledge. I'm like leaning as far away
Yeah,
from it as I
right.
possibly can.
When I
Well,
see
Nelson,
things like Capitol Peak, I'm like, I don't even know if I can ever do that. I would like to
yeah,
try, but like, that type of exposure, like I'm like, yeah, my body size just like, I don't know if I could do that. But yeah, the people that were born out here, they're just like, that's nothing to them.
yeah, they do it backwards. They're just like, oh, no big deal.
Do
Nelson,
it
before
hungover. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Before we do, we have a little bit of fun or a little bit more fun with some quizzes and questions. I did want to ask, do you have anything else that you wanted to add to this conversation before we take a quick break?
I would just say that I've been blessed in the last couple months to learn about some of the amazing advocacy groups that are in this space, whether it's dealing with disabilities or kids or overweight people or women or specific heritages. And yeah, there are all a ton of amazing advocacy groups that you can support and donate to and volunteer for. So if these type of activities are things that you care about, get involved. I'm new to that space, but yeah, you can get involved and you should. Why not hang out with a bunch of kids and help them learn how to shoot archery in an amazing park? It sounds like a good day for everybody.
Absolutely. Well said, sir. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be back with Nelson and we will go over the always important buffet rapid fire questions. So get ready and we'll be right back.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to Fat Man Little Trail, the podcast. We are talking with Nelson Holland, my new best friend in hiking. We were talking during the break about how much or how many different hikes that we've done, that each of us have done together that we know about. And it was a fun little break. But Nelson, make sure you check him out on Instagram and on TikTok at Fatblackandgettinit. I said that right, Nelson?
You did.
All
Thank
right,
you.
perfect. I keep saying it wrong. I don't know why. I say everybody's name wrong though. It's kind of like my thing on this podcast is I'm like your name is Aurora, right? And we'll call that, Yellowstone. I don't. All right. Well, the first segment, this is the hardest part. This is where everybody gets nervous. So now, Nelson, if you're going to sweat during the podcast, now is the time.
Here we
Are you
go.
ready for the buffet, the rapid fire questions?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right, here we go. If I had a drum roll machine, I would play it right now. Question number 1. Would you rather be camping, glamping, or in a hotel?
What is glamping?
Glamping is like you're in it's like what Kim Kardashian does. You're in like a $5,000 motorhome and like everything. You have like a sous chef and everything is, like super fancy, but you're outdoors. But you pretend like you're camping, but you're really doing it really fancy style.
That does sound nice, but I think I'll just go regular camping.
Fair enough. I like hotels. Like I'm not judging anybody with their decision. So, all right, number 2. This is a big one for me. Would you rather road trip or fly to your destination?
It completely depends on the distance and like where. But let's say if we're talking under a 2-day drive, road trip.
I love me a good road trip. They're my favorite. And Gardettos are the best road trip snack you can ever have. Speaking of snacks, number 3 is what is your go-to snack on the trail?
It's nothing because I'm crazy. Usually I just have water and then eat a bunch when I come back. But let's see, what do I put in there? Probably some jerky, get some protein in there. And then sometimes I'll start off the hike with a banana, a little potassium, some carbs, and yeah, some trail mix in there. I'm really low maintenance and simple.
There you go. My favorite ones are these Cliff Bars. They're white macadamia and chocolate.
Those are pretty good. They're a little
gosh.
expensive for me. They're good.
Yeah, well, I keep saying them until I get sponsored. I'm just waiting and waiting. Cliff has never come through though. All right, number Cliff. 4. And well, this works if you don't eat a lot of snacks while you're out on the trail. Number 4 is what is your favorite thing to eat or drink when you get done with the hike?
Oh, favorite. That's rough. So definitely, being from New York, I love pizza. Colorado pizza leaves some to be desired from.
Have you tried Bojo's?
I have. I'm not a huge fan of this honey crust thing, but like Bojo's is all right. I like some of I really like Benny Blanco's downtown and RG Jane's in Boulder. Obviously I like the New York style a little more. But so if it's not gonna be pizza, I would say definitely some meat. And Colorado, usually coming back from where I'm coming from, wherever I go, there's some amazing barbecue place. I'm
Yes.
probably gonna stop there.
I love it. I will say I'm from Chicago, so my version of pizza and your version of pizza from New York are completely different things.
Definitely.
You're eating crackers over there while I'm eating, I'm
That's what
eating
everybody
pie. I'm
says.
eating
Yeah,
pizza
that's
pies,
horrible bread over there, but
All right. The last question of the rapid fire. If you could be anywhere in the world right now, would you rather be in a forest, on a mountain, or at the beach?
I mean, so the first thing I would say is like I would love to. I'll never leave Colorado. I'll be here for the rest of my life. But I love that the Pacific Northwest has options where you can literally do everything you just said. Like
Yes.
that's like super appealing to me. I'm from the beach, so like that's always nice. Sunsets on the beach are awesome. But if I had to pick, I would say probably the forest, just because there's more like potential to see animals in there. And like most forests, you can kind of like hike out to see mountains, even if you're not going to the top of them.
Fair enough. I like your answers. Nelson, you've made it. You've made it past the buffet, the rapid fire
Did
questions.
I win?
Congratulations. You won. You won. You won the same thing that everybody wins each week. My admiration.
Well, that's something.
All right. Well, the next segment we have on the podcast here is I usually talk about my favorite hike of the week. But Nelson, since you are my guest this week, it is your chance to talk about the hike of the week. So, what is your favorite hike you've ever been on, or just one of your favorite hikes you've ever been on?
People ask me this all the time. Like I say, you got to go to the national park. There's some amazing ones there. I think my favorite one, especially for maybe beginner to intermediate hikers or fat hikers, is Mount Snicktu or Snicktow. I haven't figured out how to say that yet, but it's right on Loveland Pass, so it's really easy to get to. You can get there almost year round. It goes up to a 13er. You got amazing views. You're right on the Continental Divide. But the best part about it is it's only like 3 miles round trip. And honestly, the first like 3 times I did it, I didn't even go to the top. I just went to like, the to where you get on top of the
Mhm.
to where you get to the first wall summit because you can see almost everything from there. So yeah, that's probably my favorite one. You can kind of just like do whenever. It's always the most beautiful thing you see. Like when I go do that hike, I show people the pictures and I'm like, now tell me why this isn't better than the Swiss Alps. And you can't. It looks like as beautiful.
Snicktow is it was my oh, what's that? Moby Dick of hiking, where I tried it like 4 times and it didn't work like 4 times in a row. The first time I went up there, my GPS didn't work. So I went the wrong way. I went across the street and went over to like this other trail over there. And I was
I
like,
did
well,
that
this is,
too. That's funny. I did that.
oh, well, what's it called? Rotary Peak is where I ended up. And I was like sitting there like, why am I over here? The second time I went, the wind was just ridiculous. And I made it about halfway up and it was blowing like 80. So I turned around. And then the third time I like started driving up Loveland Pass. And I don't like heights. And I like Loveland Pass, driving up Loveland Pass gives me like crazy anxiety, anyways. And it was like cloudy and it started to rain. And I was just like, nope, 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 nope. And I like turned around on Loveland Pass and came back down. And then I finally made it and I finally did that hike. And that beginning part is just so steep, but it's once you get to the top of that, like it takes like 4 hours just to like get me motivated to get up that first bit of that hike. But like I think it's like a 40% grade
Yeah.
and it goes for like a mile and you just go straight up from Loveland Pass. So you go from like 11,000 to 12,000 like 200 feet in like it's not even a mile, it's like a half mile and it's just straight
Yeah.
up
Yeah,
40.
it's real steep.
But it's such a beautiful area. So well done. I like that hike of the week. You got one that I knew, and I was like, whew.
Yeah, that was cool. I had to add like just the tidbit more for you than anything else. But so I had that same experience where I went to the other side of the street because that's where the sign is. So why
Yep.
wouldn't you go there? I don't understand why they don't identify that trail better, but it is
Mhm.
what it is. The second time I went there, I did get to that first fall summit, and then there are wind shelters up there. So that made the wind like a little more bearable for me. I could go in there. But even though I love that and that's my favorite hike, I've had some like horror stories up there, but it's still my favorite hike. I definitely almost like fell down like later in the spring season when the snow started to melt. I
Mhm.
saw some marmots like sledding like down the cliff. So I kind of just went like a little, like not off a cliff, obviously, but a little far into the snow
Mhm.
to see these marmot go down. And I definitely almost fell down that cliff in the snow, but that didn't deter me. Then one time I got caught in a hailstorm up there. Thank
Oof.
God for whoever makes the wind shelters. It wasn't late in the day, but I saw the storm coming from, miles away.
Mhm.
Literally could have been 50 miles away or more than that. But the winds must have kicked up to like 100 miles an hour for a little bit because that storm was on me in like 15 minutes. So I had no choice but to just hide in a wind shelter. And then my favorite story is it was my last time hiking in sneakers before I got these hiking boots. I had on Jordans, they were like my hiking shoes, and I got it stuck in a snowfield. So I had to hike probably a mile and a half down that steepest point
Mhm.
with no shoe on my right foot. But that's still probably my favorite hike.
Oh, it's definitely an exciting hike for you.
Yeah.
I will say that like the one time I finally made it up Snake, I made it to Snake Island. You can go up to what is it? Grizzly and Cupid are up there too.
Yep.
So like you get up to the top, you go left to Snick Tow or however it's said, and then right to Grizzly or Cupid. But the one time, like after trying it 4 times, the fifth time I finally like finished it and I was feeling all good about myself. And I went to go down that really steep part at the beginning, that 40% grade. And all of a sudden, like my foot just slipped on the dirt and I fell. And I was like, holy cow, I think I'm gonna like, it was the first time I'd ever fallen hiking. But because it's a 40% grade and like, so you're walking, like I thought I was walking straight up, but like my butt was almost touching the ground anyway. So like I slipped and I was on my butt before I even knew it. Like I didn't even know it happened. I'm just sitting on the mountain. I was like, how'd that happen? It's just because it's so steep and my legs just kicked out like a cartoon. And I was just, boop, nope, here I am. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah,
Like
that's
it
funny.
didn't hurt. Nothing happened. I was just all of a sudden sitting on my butt. But anyways, all right, Nelson, you have earned this next part. You actually have made it to the Ask the Fat Man question segment. So you get to ask me questions and we turn the tables a little bit. What questions do you have for me?
I always need to know everybody's favorite hike, maybe one that you already talked about, Mount Sherman, but I'll accept hikes that you've been on or one that you're really hoping to do.
That is a wonderful question. So I'm kind of like you, and I love I'm gonna break it down into a couple of different answers on that. So I love the sunrises, just like you. What you talked about doing the sunrises. And a couple of my favorites, I went out to Utah last year to do the kind of Utah national park scene. And Mesa Arch, there's the hike's only like it's like half a mile to get to Mesa Arch, but when the sun comes up, it hits the archway in such a way that it like first of all the sun rises over a mountain range and I don't know the name of the range, but then it comes through and it hits the archway and it makes the entire inside of the arch glow this just bright orange color, and it's the most amazing thing you'll ever see, or at least I thought I'd ever see, until like 3 days later I was in Bryce Canyon and I did sunrise at Bryce Canyon, and all of a sudden the sun comes up again over some mountain and then it turns the entire inside, like where the Queen's Garden is and all of the hoodoos that are down inside of Bryce Canyon turn this bright fluorescent orange shade, and then all the surrounding rocks are still kind of in shadow, so you just have this glowing orange. It almost looks like a little city, like an abandoned ancient city below you, and it's just glowing. And it was, if you've ever seen I forget what Indiana Jones movie it was, but the one where he like sticks the thing in the ground and the sun hits it and it
Okay,
shows,
yeah.
like through the little map of the city, it felt like that, like there was buried treasure down in Bryce Canyon and I was about to find it. So those are my
Wow.
favorite sunsets or sunrises, which were like just really like made my day just get so much better. And then going down and hiking in Bryce Canyon and like through the Queen's Garden is just absolutely amazing if you ever get a chance to do that. One of my favorite hikes, I think the hike that is the most meaningful to me, I'll do this one. So Staunton State Park is in kind of the pine conifer area of Colorado, and it's my it's kind of like my home base. It's the place that I've loved, and I've gone more to that than anywhere else that I've been in all the hikes. It's close, it's comfortable, it's where I fell in love with hiking, and it's the place like anytime I need to go out and just get away from it all, I go out to Staunton. Well, I'd hiked there for like about a year before I was talking to a ranger one day, and he's like, well, you can climb to the top of Lion's Head. Lion's Head is this kind of big rock formation that's kind of like a straight faced rock formation that you see like through half of the hikes that you're doing as you go around the park. And you see it, and it's just like this kind of looking over the park, it's kind of like monumental, and you're just like, wow, that thing's crazy. And then they're like, yeah, you can go to the top of that, there's trails. I had no idea. So this one time I go out and I walk all the way to Lion's Head, and it ended up being like, I think it's like a 12 or 13 mile hike or something like that. And like, there was nothing better, because the first time I hiked at Staunton, I thought I was going to die. Like, I literally thought, because it was hard. It was the hikes I'd started on were hikes that were, kind of neighborhood hikes and things like that were easy. And like Staunton was my first big hike in a park. And I made it to, I think, Elk Falls or somewhere like that in Staunton, which is like a 9 miles round trip. And I was in so much pain. I was exhausted. I probably lost 15 pounds of sweat. Like, it was, like we said, there's like doing the first hike and how out of shape you are, and like you just don't know what you're doing, and everything seems so far away. And now I'd gone past Elk Falls and made it all the way up to the top of Lion's Head, and I realized like how far I'd come. And I sat up there, and I didn't, I didn't cry. Like, it wasn't like that, but it was like there was just so much pride that came over me and just kind of made me feel like I've won. Like, I've taken this entire thing that I was so bad at, and I was so far down the food chain of hiking. I was like, I could barely do like these easy hikes, and now I'm on top of Lion's Head, like this rock formation that I had seen in the distance for all these days. And that was probably the most sentimental, best hike that I've done. Now, from a pure like visual standpoint, you go up to Rocky Mountain and you do I did this loop that I parked at Bear Lake, and I did Bear Lake and Dream Lake, and gosh, I'm not even gonna remember them all. Emerald Lake. And then I went up to, there's another lake up there that I can't remember the name, and then swung all the way down to Mills Lake, and then came back around and saw the waterfall there. And like, so visually stunning. Like, that's one of the best, and that's one that I think anybody can do. Like, it's not that challenging. So I think like lower level people and people just starting out and people that are overweight would be able to do that Bear Lake loop. Maybe not all of it, but at least get out to Emerald and back would be a good hike for that. How was that? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, extensively, just like I like. Now I got a bunch of stuff to put on my list. I still haven't been to Staunton, and everybody's telling me that I need to do that. I've seen a bunch of pictures of Elk Creek Falls, but now I got to go to Lion's Head.
You do. And so Staunton just opened up a new parking lot called the Lazy V parking lot, and it cuts like 2.5 miles off of the trip to Lion's Head. So I did it before, the fancy parking lot for all these
Nice.
lazy people. But yeah, I would definitely suggest Staunton. It's a great place to go and to hike, and it's close by. I mean, for me, like, I live downtown, so it's like 45 minutes for me. From Aurora, it's probably like an hour or so, just down 285. And it's just a wonderful place to go. So
I'll be going there soon.
any other questions for me, Nelson? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I got a few. Seems
Okay.
like you're somewhat of a foodie. I'll take some of those recommendations, and I guess the area, but really the state as a whole.
Yeah, so on Fat Man Little Trail, what I do is I pair each hike up with a locally owned restaurant, because my whole thing is, if we're going to go up into the mountains and support and recreate in these small towns and these small areas in the mountains, you might as well support those towns as well. And I've also found that the best way to meet people from those towns and to actually get a little bit of the culture of those towns is to go into the diners and the cafes and the small mom and pop restaurants and stuff like that, and like just kind of talk to people, and you learn a lot about the town, and I think it's been wonderful. So one of the best places to go, and since we're on that Pine area, I'll stick with this one. Have you been to the Buck Snort yet?
No.
Okay, so the Buck Snort it was I think it's been around since like 1870 or something like that. And it's this tiny little shack, not shack, but like cabin in pine. And you have to take, I forgot the road. I think it's Elk Falls Road that you go, or Elk Road or something like that. And you kind of wind back, and it's like this one lane road, like going around these mountains into this little neighborhood. And it has been, and you see the buck snort, and you walk in, and there's still like wood burning fireplaces there. There's people from like businessmen to biker gangs and everything in between. Like everybody has been there. There's dollar bills like signed and stapled from every possible place you can ever think of, stapled all over the walls and all over everything. And it's just the food's pretty good. The food's like a good burger or whatever, but just the atmosphere of being at the buck snort is one of the more interesting places. But it's such a unique place, just a cabin in the back, kind of the back country of Colorado, and it's just something that so many people have been to. Another one, the next time you go up to Rocky Mountain National Park, if you go through what's the other entrance, the 36 entrance, not the 34 entrance.
Are you talking about Beaver Meadows or
Yeah.
Fall Visitor Center?
What was the second one you said?
The Fall,
Yeah,
I don't know, like
it's the
Fall
fall.
Visitor Center is like by that entrance.
I can't remember. Yeah, but the fall visitor, like up there's like a second entrance. It's not quite as popular to get into the park, and it's like the way you get to like Deer Mountain and stuff like that, which is another
That's
good
the
hike.
one I take by Sheep Lakes. Yeah, we should know the name of that.
I know. I'm just drawing a blank right now, but there's a restaurant, so it's kind of there's like a little shopping center that has like a mini ranger station and like some information there.
Okay,
and then there's this restaurant called Trailheads, which is I mean, it's kind of, it's a little expensive, but it's got this great view because it has like this big wraparound porch that overlooks the park. So you can sit, after you hiked all day, you can go there and sit on the porch and overlook Rocky Mountain National Park while you're eating an elk burger. They have like different kinds of elk burgers and things like that. So some definite good food and good vibes on that one. Where else? I've eaten at probably more restaurants than I'd like to imagine, and definitely more than my doctor is happy to hear about. There's also on 285, it's a food truck that is in Bailey, Colorado. And there's this place called Olga's there. And it's this little food truck. And I think Olga sold it at one point, and then she bought it back because she didn't like the way the new owners were doing it. And they have the greatest beans you will ever taste in your entire life. It's like a half bean, half chili. It's just the most amazing thing you'll ever have. And after a hike, getting a side of beans that has, oh man, it's like there's pork in there or something. They're just, I dream about the Olga beans, but I have a lot more. So check out the food page at fatmanlittletrail.com.
No, I definitely will. I feel the same way. I like to spend money in the area that I just traveled to learn the culture and a bunch of stuff. And sometimes you get local food. I feel bad because I don't remember the name of the spot, but last time I went to Evergreen, I stopped at a local place there, and they made a drink with the pine needles from outside. And it was an amazing drink. And I'm like in love with things like that. Nice. So I'll definitely be checking out the website. I've seen all your cool views on Instagram. I haven't been to the website yet, so I gotta go on there.
Yeah, I don't do any of the restaurants on Instagram. I probably should, but I stick to hiking on the Instagram, and then the website has the hiking and the food. So
all right, well, I'll be on there.
Any other questions for the Ask the Fat Man segment?
Let's see. I had a few other ones, and then we started talking about all this, and I just so I guess you hit on the two things that I care about most. We'll save the rest for when we get on trail together.
I love it, Nelson. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining me today on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. This has been awesome.
Everybody go out and check on podcast, on TikTok and on Instagram, Fatblackandgettinit. Nelson Holland is a great follow, especially if you love amazing views and somebody who has a great time hanging out with the animals on the trail.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. You guys come to hike with me. You can. Let's
Nelson,
all share this nature.
Thank you so much. And that's going to wrap up this edition of the podcast. Again, check out fatmanlittletrail.com. And if you are interested in helping support the podcast, there is a link on my bio that can help you get there. I appreciate Nelson being here and joining me today. And I hope to see you all on the trail real soon. And until then, happy hiking.